I think last week was one of the bloodiest weeks in the conflict between the Israeli Palestinians for some time. And I think it started with a raid by the Israeli security forces in Jenin on militants, and which killed 9 people, including civilians, not only militants, and then followed by the atrocity of killing 7 worshippers outside the synagogue in Jerusalem, Jewish worshippers, and another attack on Saturday. And this is exactly what many of us fear, that this kind of cycle of violence, it's a vicious cycle that is going on and on without any political horizon. And as a result of it, we almost can envisage what is to follow with harsher Israeli measures against Palestinian, violation of human rights, tit for tat of killings, and again, without any political horizon of not only peace, but even managing this conflict.
So there's no sign of effective de-escalation of the situation by leaders or officials?
Well, there might be de-escalation, but at the same time, this kind of de-escalations are temporary because they don't deal with the root causes of the conflict. At the end of the day, the Israeli occupation of the West Bank and the blockade on Gaza, depriving Palestinians of the right of self-determination, is unsustainable. And with that, the expansion of the settlements that grabs more land, Palestinian land. So under these conditions, you would expect resistance. Now, it doesn't justify violence against civilians whatsoever, but unfortunately, in this kind of situation, some people will resort to this kind of act.
Well, how has the Israeli government made guns more accessible? What do you make of this move in response to the violence?
I think it's worth reminding the viewers that this is the most far-right government in Israeli history. And they used to blame anyone for whenever there was violence against the Israelis. And now it is under their watch, so they can't blame the security forces for being too weak, or the government not allowing to do what they want, or the legal system change the security forces, so it's under their watch. But then some of the people in charge, actually, of the West Bank now are settlers themselves. So this is very worrying. And as it is, many settlers actually carry guns. And as a result, we also see a rise in settler violence. Providing more people with guns, again, is not the solution. It's actually what they are trying to build is militias. And militias can only lead for more killings and innocent people. It might even lead to civil war. So I think this is the wrong remedy. It actually will only make things worse. And
you don't believe that crackdowns work to reduce the violence either, and in fact have the opposite effect?
Well, the security forces need to deal with militants. No government can allow this kind of killings like the one that happened on Friday night and Saturday morning. But this is, again, not the solution. The solution is political. And if you look at, for instance, the terrorist attack on Friday night, it was by a lone gunman. It was no organization behind it, which tells us that there are people, the Palestinians, that live under occupation 55 years. And yes, they choose these specific people. And again, let's remind ourselves, this is a very small minority, takes the wrong acts, obviously, of killing innocent people. But in these conditions, it does happen. And as a result of it, yes, the Israeli government is going to seal houses and demolish houses of families, but they punish the wrong people because the terrorist was killed already on Friday. So what it will create, collective punishment, is illegal, and achieve exactly the opposite, create more resentment and actually recruit more people into militancy.
Now, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is on a 3-day visit to the Middle East. What's on his agenda?
Yeah. Again, the visit was announced before the last incidents in the last few days. Again, the approach of the United States is somewhat wishy-washy about it. They try to manage the conflict. They don't have much interest in this. There are other issues to deal which take precedence right now in the United States, either a domestic one or the war in Ukraine and cost of living, relation with China. And the Israeli-Palestinian looks like one that they can't resolve. So there is a visit once a year and a half, try to talk to the leaders not to take any extreme measures in order to prevent an outburst of violence. But again, I think the United States, as the European Union and others, are neglected their responsibility to try and resolve this conflict once and for all, based on equal rights for every human being between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. And I think in this sense, the visit by Blinken, unless the Biden administration decide to take a serious measure to bring the people to negotiate on both sides, I think it's a completely futile visit.
Yossi Mekelberg, thanks so much for talking to the world tonight. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.